Welcome into 2-for-1 Drafts. This is our Rookies and Draft Prospects podcast here at PFF. I'm here with Mike Renner, Austin Gayle. We got a ton of stuff packed for you today. Before we are live on YouTube every Tuesday and Thursday. You can also check us out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Stitcher. Let's get into the schedule. Loaded one. We're going to start with our top 10 mock draft. A little back and forth action.
Because, some teams are out of it. We'll
exactly.
just say it as is. Some teams know they're going to be drafted.
It's
in the top
mock
10.
draft season for a lot of teams right now. Miami Dolphins, Cincinnati Bengals, Washington Redskins. So we're getting our mock draft a little back and forth, and we'll raise a glass to some of our top prospect performances of the weekend. We'll also pour some out for the some of the bad prospect performances of the weekend. We also do our Rolling Rooks segment, a little play on Rolling Rocks, where we talk about our top rookie performances. We'll have a beer belly segment in there. There's going to be a draft special and some blackout performances. Those are our bad rookie performances. A lot of good stuff out there. And
cap it off with a chug.
Oh, we're going to cap it off with a chug. We're going to chug a prospect. That's where we go all in.
This is a special one. This is a fun one.
This is a good one. This is definitely a good one. We're going to chug a prospect, go all on him, and really kind of talk his profile all the way through. Let's get right into this mock draft. It's going to be 1 through 10. This is based on order, projected odds or projected finishes for these teams. It's not like we think the Bengals are bad. Oh, no, wait. No, we probably do think the Bengals are bad. But starting at number 1, the Cincinnati Bengals picking first overall. The Andy Dalton era is ending. Going into next year, he has, I think, over $14 million on the books, but they can cut him with zero dead money, I'm sure, or kind of seek out trade partners because they're going to go with Alabama quarterback Tua Tagovailoa. He's been lights out to start. He's the number 1 quarterback on our board, and it only makes sense for kind of Cincinnati to go in this direction, go get a franchise QB.
Yeah, I mean, if the Ravens can get something for Joe Flacco, I think the Bengals will still be able to get some trade value for Andy Dalton. And, yeah, it's one of those things where it's not you, Andy Dalton, it's the Bengals. He was fine when you had a lot of the pieces around him. They don't have those pieces. It's not going to happen anytime soon. It's not really going to happen overnight. So if you do have the number 1 overall pick, you get a chance to attack Tagovailoa. We feel comfortable about him being, worth the number 1 pick at this point, a franchise type of quarterback. Just hit that reset button and go to QB.
And I think, I want to stay on the Cincinnati Bengals a little bit longer. Hit that reset button. Move on from some of these guys. I think there's opportunities to move on from maybe a William Jackson, AJ Green, get some extra draft capital to help this rebuild because, like you said, it's not going to happen overnight. And by the time the Bengals are good and have a good supporting cast, Andy Dalton's going to be even worse than he is now, which is not someone you want to be starting. So I think resetting this franchise with a new franchise quarterback, or at least seek out a franchise quarterback in Tua Tagovailoa. And I think there's also some pieces right now, AJ Green, William Jackson, that they could maybe try and offload to help this rebuild out and really go from the ground up.
William Jackson to me is one where it's kind of a cornerstone, kind of like the Miami Dolphins did. You keep a guy like that through a rebuild. You're not going to find corners like him. Yes, he's having a down year. Yes, it's been a rough go of it for him this season. I'm more willing to part ways with a 30-plus year old wide receiver in AJ Green. Maybe a Drake Kirkpatrick on the other side. Not that he has a ton of trade value, but
really
reset on some of those guys like that. Older players. If you have a young talent in the pipe like him, like a Carl Lawson, I think you hold on to those guys, and you can. A rebuild in the NFL doesn't have to be a 3-4 year. It doesn't have to look like the Browns. It can be a 1 to 2 year process, and at that point, you still want a guy like William Jackson on your roster.
Definitely. Let's go to number 2. You were over the Washington Redskins here. Who'd you have for them?
I had Chase Young. I think he's just a no-brainer. I don't care who you have at the edge position. Yes, I know they just drafted Montez Sweat there. Yes, I know they have Ryan Kerrigan on the other side, but he's getting up there in ages and having the best season for the Redskins this year. So Chase Young, Boz can't miss as he gets in this draft class. Yes, you could use wide receiver help. Yes, Jerry Jeudy would make sense there as well. But I think Chase Young is a very clean projection to the next level, as dominant a player as we've seen in college football in terms of his pass rushing grade, his pass rushing win rate. A lot to like from him. So that one at number 2, it's almost like when the Browns drafted Myles Garrett. It's just too much of a no-brainer. Don't overthink him.
He's the best non-quarterback in this class. And I don't care who you've drafted in the past 2 or 3 years, who you have on your roster. When you have an opportunity to get a guy like Chase Young, who has all the tools and the production to boot, it's a no-brainer. And he plays a position that is very valuable in today's NFL. He can get after the passer, plays edge defender. I think Chase Young makes a ton of sense there. Miami Dolphins coming in at number 3. They're also going for a quarterback. Josh Rosen, they traded for him, trying him out. I don't think it's going to work out for them. Try and go get a guy that can change, the landscape of this franchise. I think they go get Joe Burrow of LSU, a rocket on PFF's draft board. He is making all of the NFL throws right now. He's one of the highest graded college quarterbacks on throws of 10-plus air yards. That's what we look for. Can you push downfield, fit it into tight windows, and get those big-time throws while also limiting turnover-worthy plays? He's not a turnover machine. He makes good decisions with the football. I think he still has some things to prove if he is going to fall at number 3 come April, but I think he's he's on that trajectory, and he has some good games coming up. He's going to take on Alabama. He's going to take on LSU. There's going to be opportunities to see Joe Burrow against great defenses and on big stages. If he proves it then, continues with this accuracy, I could see him going top 5, number 3 to Dolphins.
Yeah, we'll talk about it later on the Later of the Week podcast about his matchup this weekend against Florida, how big that's going to be for him. But yeah, the more and more I look at these guys, you just have to have Burrow over Herbert at this point. Herbert has the arm talent, has, that sort of stuff going for him, the size going for him. But at the same time, I think every single one of Burrow's games this year has been more impressive from an NFL draft perspective than even Herbert's best game. And again, Herbert comes up small against the defense in Cal this past week. You can see if you're watching on the YouTube channel, the top 10 ticker here. We didn't select Justin Herbert in the top 10. I just don't think he is worthy of a top 10 pick at this point in time with what I've seen from him. I don't want to be the team that drafts him.
I would agree 100%. Now let's go to number 4. This is where the New York Jets are picking. They're going out and getting the best cornerback in this class.
Yes, I went cornerback for them because I feel very good about Jeffrey Okudah and his projection to the next level. It's obviously been a point of contention for the Jets for some time now. Shermaine Johnson, we criticized that signing at the time. They had some big buyer's remorse after his first year there in New York. They just don't have the pieces on the outside to be able to play man coverage. Jeffrey Okudah, I think man coverage to me is the ultimate sort of levels the playing field in the NFL today. You look at the Patriots, play more man coverage than anyone. Oh, and they also have the best defense in the NFL. The Lions, their big improvement this year has come from playing a lot of man coverage. I think that getting guys who can play man coverage is how you shut down the Patrick Mahomeses of the world, how you shut down these high-flying offenses. That is Jeffrey Okudah to a T. So that's why I think the Jets go there instead of a guy like Jerry Jeudy.
And strongman coverage starts with getting a talent that can, be sticky with all these receivers. You look at New England Patriots, Stephon Gilmore, PFF's highest graded cornerback from a year ago. You go to the New Orleans Saints even, who have a very much improved defense. Marshawn Lattimore locking some guys up. And you go to Detroit, Justin Coleman, one of PFF's highest graded cornerbacks playing in the slot. Looking at Okudah so far, an 85.5 coverage grade, 6'1", 199 pounds, very athletic. There's just so much to like about this guy. Similar to Chase Young in that he has a lot of the tools you want, but he's also got some great production this year while getting tested. He's been targeted 27 times, only 16 receptions allowed, 161 yards, and 1 touchdown. He's been fantastic. Let's move forward in this one. For number 5, going to number 5, the Miami Dolphins are back on the board.
Yeah.
With that trade, they're going to go after and get Joe Burrow, a receiver, a very good one, staying in the SEC, wide receiver Jerry Jeudy. I love this guy. I think he's an elite receiver, the top receiver in this class, and I think it's a perfect pairing with Joe Burrow to kind of get him started in Miami.
Yeah, I mean, the Miami Dolphins wide receiver core, after dealing away Kenny Stills, is pretty cheeks. It's not a very good wide receiver core. This is a bad wide receiving core at this point. Obviously, you pair Burrow with a guy like Jeudy. They could also go offensive line here, but I think actually the bigger story to me with this pick is that the Pittsburgh Steelers look like they're going to be drafting in the top 5. They look like what they gave up. Then to get Minkah Fitzpatrick is going to be a top 5 pick in this class. And the way this class is shaping up, there's probably going to be 12 or so guys that I'd rather have than Minkah Fitzpatrick at this point in time. So if you're not drafting in the top, unless you're drafting outside the top 12, I think that's going to be some buyer's remorse for the Steelers on their end.
Counterpoint, Devlin Hodges is going to right the ship in Pittsburgh. No, it's going to be bad. I think you will likely see them picking in the top 10, if not the top 5.
Yeah.
I think this is going to be a huge opportunity for Miami to go all in on this rebuild. I think it's an opportunity to get a quarterback, get the guy you like. You're probably not going to have an opportunity at Tua Tagovailoa unless you're picking at number 1. And then with that second pick, go get him some tools. I think Jerry Jeudy makes a ton of sense. Can you imagine a little Miami, Tua Tagovailoa, and Jerry Jeudy get that pairing going in South Beach? I'd be pretty ecstatic. Who do you have for the Atlanta Falcons at number 6?
Atlanta Falcons, I'm adding to this defense, and it kind of goes with their MO in terms of just adding athletes and then finding a way to utilize them. I'm giving them Isaiah Simmons, the linebacker from Clemson, to pair with Deion Jones, and you can just shut down the middle of the field with a combination like that. Tampa 2 is making a comeback in the NFL. We're seeing more Tampa 2 this year than we have in years past from a lot of different teams. I think that could be the Atlanta Falcons with the new, whoever becomes their defensive coordinator, because it doesn't look like it might be Dan Quinn there for much longer. I'll just say it. But I do think that Isaiah Simmons and Deion Jones, if you have those two guys, two athletes at that caliber at the linebacker position, you can do a lot of different things with them. He is again, in terms of that, just do-it-all coverage player, plays some safety for Clemson, and also can man up on tight ends, can be your sort of tight end eraser. I think it's very much worthy of a top 10 pick at this point. What's
really unfortunate is if the Falcons are picking at this number 6 spot, I don't know if there's going to be an edge defender that they can add at 6 that makes a ton of sense for value. Because I think I immediately jump to they need more than just Grady Jarrett down low. I think they need someone that's rushing the passer that can have more success than Vic Beasley and Tack McKinley. That's something they've thrown draft capital at, but have yet to really strike gold. And I think Isaiah Simmons makes sense from a value standpoint at number 6, but you have to hope they're in a position to also add some edge talent at some point in the offseason because this pass rush needs help. Grady Jarrett cannot do it by himself. We're going to go number 7, the Denver Broncos. They're going to go get Drew Lock, CeeDee Lamb of Oklahoma. And I think CeeDee Lamb, like Jerry Jeudy, is an elite receiving talent, a good separator with also great size. I really do love his size. He hasn't had a ton of opportunities so far this year to get those wide receiver wins. I'd like to see more of those on tape. He's running wild, free on broken coverage and things like that. But CeeDee Lamb, I think you trust his abilities to where if he was put in more one-on-one situations in the NFL, press and all that stuff, I think he does win a ton and produces at an elite level in the NFL.
Yeah, the weird thing about this Denver Broncos roster at this point is they don't have like a ton of needs. They're just kind of like below average at a lot of different positions, and obviously quarterback being the main one that they could use to improve. I'd be hard-pressed to become real draft. This is the real scenario, how it falls. John Elway's probably not passing on Justin Herbert. Let's just be honest here. What he's been all about in the draft, size, arm talent, that's Justin Herbert. Like if the Broncos are on the clock and Justin Herbert's there, I'd give that a 99.9% chance that Justin Herbert's a Denver Bronco.
Justin Herbert is one of those quarterbacks, though, that I think if the New York Jets are sitting there at number 4, that someone goes up and tries to snag. Because I feel like you're going to see. I think that's a quarterback that a lot of traditional GMs will covet for the size and all that stuff, the arm talent. I think it's going to be a similar draft in that you're trading up for quarterbacks if you're not number 1 overall. And I think I could see Denver being a candidate to go get one if they don't feel confident in Drew Lock.
Yeah, we're not going to be assholes and project trades in this.
Yeah, fair.
3-month
Totally fair. That would be just absurd.
Yeah.
I actually have the Oakland Raiders projected to trade up. They're trading. Let's go to number 8, Arizona Cardinals. Trying to work this rebuild. I think you got a great pick here. Who are you taking?
I went with Tristan Wirfs, the tackle / maybe guard out of Iowa. He's the number 1 tackle on our board, although it is close between him and Andrew Thomas at this point. I love both of their physicalities. They both look like sure things in the run game. Still a little bit of a work in progress, but I love the upward trajectory of both of them in terms of pass protection over the course of their careers that I've seen. They've made the necessary improvements every single year that make you think they'll figure it out down the line at some point in the NFL. But yeah, you got to protect Kylie Murray just a little bit more. I think they can go a number of different ways with that pick, but I think the value there at OT a little too much.
I mean, they need help along the offensive line, and it's not a place where Arizona has really invested a ton of draft capital into. It's time to kind of put a top 10 pick on that offensive line, and maybe even add some more pieces in free agency over the offseason. I think that pick makes sense. Jacksonville Jaguars picking at number 9. I really like this one. Safety Grant Delpit of LSU going to Jacksonville to even improve that secondary. Whether Jalen Ramsey stays or goes, this is a huge get for Jacksonville in my opinion, improving that defense on the back end. I like their pass rush. Josh Allen, Yannick Ngakoue, Calais Campbell. Let's get better in the secondary. I think Grant Delpit is one of those safeties that has great range, great ball skills. Yes, he misses tackles. I know that. He misses a ton of tackles, but I really do like where he's at right now from a ball, range perspective and ball skills perspective. I think if he goes to Jacksonville with that pass rush, he can make a ton of plays.
And he's a playmaker. He is a guy who is going to make plays that no other, that you can count the number of safeties, even like in the NFL, would make on one hand. He is just that sort of, playmaker on the back end. He is, 6'3", has length, can break up passes from any position on the football field. I just think adding an influx of talent, Kings stay Kings, keep that secondary. You don't want to trade away Jalen Ramsey. Like you really want to keep him there unless you get a King's ransom like the Miami Dolphins did for Laramie Tunsil. You want that defense to be as dominant as it has been in recent years. Adding Grant Delpit to that would be a scary addition. I think the Jaguars might not be drafting top 10 when it's all said and done, though. I think.
Yeah, Gardner Minshew. You believe in Gardner.
I'm starting to believe. But
Totally. Number 10, I think these guys could be drafting top 10. New York Giants going at number 10. Who do you have for him?
I went Andrew Thomas from Georgia. Like I said, he is very close to Tristan Wirfs on our board. They still could use help there at right tackle, and it's kind of been the Giants. They want to establish the run. They want to give Saquon Barkley the most favorable. They want to justify drafting him second overall. And again, I don't hate on getting yourself a dominant offensive line. I think that's where if I'm going to build, and if I am going to be a running team, I'm going to build along that offensive line. So I don't hate if you do have a top 10 pick, someone like Andrew Thomas, all of a sudden you get a solid front there, cross front five, and I don't think Nate Solder also will be there too much longer with his bloated contract and how he's performed. So just add talent to a value position there.
That's going to do it for our top 10 mock draft. Very early mock draft, mid-season of the college football season. But I think you're going to hear a lot of those names get called that early, regardless of who those teams that are picking at top 10. Let's go to our next segment here. We're going to raise a glass to some of our top prospect performances from the weekend. We're going to start with the Wisconsin center that has played, did not have a great start to this season, but really is coming off a big game. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, Tyler Biadasz. This is what we expected sort of like every game that he was going up against, early in the season when he went up against USF, against Central Michigan, this past week against Kent State, 90.9 overall grade. That's checking that box that you want to see. You want to see that sort of you shouldn't lose against inferior talents like that because, again, it only gets harder once you get to the NFL. So he has dropped down our board a little bit this year because we didn't see him sort of take that next step. But string together a few more performances like this, hold up in the Big Ten. I think we're still going to have him as a first-round type of interior offensive lineman.
And you look at Biadasz in 2017, an 82.3 overall grade. 2018, he built on that, 86.7, but stumbled out of the gate. Through his first 5 games, he earned sub 70.0 overall grades, and then comes into this one, Kent State, 90.9. And if you look at what he's done in pass protection specifically, it hasn't been all that bad. He's only allowed 1 pressure on the year. The problem has been kind of his run blocking. That's where his overall grade has been dragged down. Good to see him bounce back with an 85.4 run blocking grade against Kent State. Moving forward to other guys we are raising a glass for. SMU, small school kid, James Pro Shaye. Is it Pro Shaye or Prosh? I like Pro Shaye.
I think it's Prosh. But
dang it. Gosh, I like Pro Shaye, though. It sounds cooler. But yeah, James Pro Shaye, he's had a very good start to the season even before this game. But again, lights out. I think he had that game-winning, game-winning reception in the end zone. He's been outstanding to start, but this is kind of like a big exclamation point for him.
Yeah, had 1,199 yards, 12 touchdowns last year, so it was obviously on our radar coming into the year. Undersized, 5'11", 190, but a little bit of a sudden route runner. I think he has a career. He's not going to be super exciting. Doesn't have great speed. Not going to do anything that really wows you. But I think this guy has a career as a slot receiver in the NFL and will be a starter for some time because he attacks the football over the middle of the field. He comes back to the football. He's not going to, give you picks like you see Antonio Callaway doing with Baker Mayfield, it seems like, weekly in that Browns offense. He is a guy who is not going to hang your quarterback out to dry, and he is going to attack the ball and take hits over the middle of the football field. A reliable slot receiver. And my favorite stat is his hands, only 6 drops on 242 catchable opportunities over the course of his career. Those are absurd numbers for him. So another big one this past week, 11 catches, 153 and 2 tutties. So I'm a fan of his. And it's not all slot work in that SMU offense. He wins some on the outside.
Oh, yeah.
But I think his ultimate where he'll win in the NFL and where his value is in the slot.
0 drops so far this year, too. And 5 forced missed tackles after the catch. He's had, again, an electric start to the beginning of this. And I think he does have a role in the NFL playing in the slot. Next guy we're going for, Jajuan Jennings of Tennessee. He was a guy that landed on your article, your scouting notes article. He had a standout performance as well.
Yeah, a guy who I truthfully had not even been on my radar whatsoever heading into this season. Statistically, it's not surprising. He only had 498 yards back in 2018, 580 yards back in 2016. Had a wrist injury in 2017 that kept him out for that year. So he's a redshirt senior. But at this point, he's 6'3", 208, and the dude is a legit weapon after the catch. You rarely see guys at that size being able to shake off defenders the way he does. 12 broken tackles on 26 catches already this season, 5 this past week against a pretty darn good tackling Georgia defense that he went up against. So he's making his way onto radars pretty quickly, has 33 broken tackles over the course of his career now on 113 catches.
That's legit.
That's legit. And he's been Tennessee's quarterback situation obviously hasn't been doing him any favors there over the course of his career. So this is a guy I definitely need to watch more, but I love what I saw from this Georgia performance. He will be one to watch, a name to watch going forward.
12 forced missed tackles on 26 receptions this year.
It's crazy.
That's absurd. And this is a guy kind of has a good athletic profile, former 4-star recruit, former Mr. Tennessee. He's a Tennessee Tennessee hometown guy.
When you say Mr. Tennessee, it sounds like he won like a Miss
No, that's what I'm
America
referencing. No, yeah, but he was a great high school football player for Tennessee, former 4-star. Let's go ahead and dive into surprise beer belly segment. This is a top performance someone will raise a glass to, but it's also a beer belly segment where we kind of highlight a fat guy that's playing pretty well. Talk about a guy you've really liked. We've talked about him multiple times on this podcast, but he got a touchdown. This week. Samuel Cosme of Texas, he has been outstanding from a pass blocking perspective, run blocking. Now he's getting it done as a receiver.
He had an 89.4 receiving grade this past week.
Fire. That is fire.
But, when he caught the ball on that pass and started running, he looked like a tight end.
Oh, my God. I was going to say the same thing.
It goes back to a lot of what I've said a ton here about offensive line or offensive tackle scouting specifically. There just aren't enough guys that are that big and can also move. Samuel Cosme obviously is one of them. If he shed 40 pounds, he could be a legit tight end prospect with the way he ran after the catch on that one. But again, he goes up against West Virginia this past week, doesn't allow a single pressure in that game. He's moving. Every time I see him, I want to push him higher up the board because I just think he has the athletic profile and the skills and already the production now to be a top-tier left tackle in the NFL. So I'm not sure if he's going to declare. Only redshirt sophomore, could obviously come back for 2 more years if he really wanted to. But I think he's already ready at this point to make the leap to the NFL.
And what stands out for me so far this year, 0 drops. No, but 89. He's had an 85.
He's no Trey Walker.
Exactly.
Right?
But okay, so you talk about him how when he caught that football he looked athletic. Go back to Marshall Newhouse when he had that ball and got flipped on. It's just a totally different ball game when you see a big 6'7", 300-pound kid that can actually catch the ball and have some form of acceleration and look like a little bit natural with the ball in his hand.
As dumb as it sounds to say, it improved my opinion of his potential in my mind. It did.
I shot him a DM, but 85.1 overall grade for Cosme so far this year. 78.9 pass blocking grade. I think Cosme, the receiving is great, but I think what he's done so far this year at tackle for Texas, and he's got a big matchup coming up. We'll probably be talking about him on the Thursday podcast where we review some of the big prospect matchups. Let's keep going in that Raise a Glass segment. Derrick Brown. This is a guy that you specifically called out on Twitter because you didn't love Derrick Brown as much as everybody else. This game,
I didn't at him and hey, buddy, step your
exactly,
shit up.
Exactly. You didn't at him. But this is a game where he kind of bounced back and showed some of that pass rushing prowess that we needed to see from him to kind of get back on his bandwagon.
Well, I just think he has, with his sort of strength advantage, he is an ox. The dude is so much stronger than every single offensive lineman he's going up against. Why doesn't he dominate like this every single game? It's kind of my biggest question mark with him. He kind of runs hot and cold. He had a game that first week against Oregon, only 1 pressure the entire game. Now, it's good Oregon offensive line, but, that's the offensive lines you want to see him still doing it against. So this past week, goes up against Florida. Florida, one of the worst offensive lines in the SEC. They are bad, but he dominated them. 92.8 pass rushing grade, 6 pressures on the day. That's good. But the thing that still worries me is he has those games. He alternates those with up and down. Let me see that sustained. Let me get those consistent pass rush grades in the 80s because I just worry about any 320-pounder being able to consistently affect the pass. If you can't do that, you're not going to be a top 10 pick. We left him out of top 10 of our mock when pretty much everyone else in America is saying, even in the game watching against Florida, they were calling him a top 5 player in the class. It's just I don't think he quite is at this point. I feel similarly with him, although albeit better than I felt about Christian Wilkins last year, where it's just he'll probably be good. He'll definitely be good against the run, but pass game, who knows? And Christian Wilkins hasn't hit the ground running yet.
Totally. I think with Derrick Brown too, he took a step in the right direction to being maybe a top 10 player in the NFL draft, but he needs to show that consistency as a pass rusher. You spoke to it. He needs 80-plus pass rushing grades more often than just one game, and not against a bad offensive line. Going forward, this one's going to be quick. Raising a glass very quickly to Chase Young. He continues to be outstanding. I'm just going to walk you through these pass rush grades of the last 3 weeks. 96.2 against Miami of Ohio, 96.8 against Nebraska, 92.9 against Michigan State. I looked at his key plays, and PFF grades every player from a scale of -2 to +2. You're going to see a lot of .5s. He had 12 positively graded plays, positively graded pass rush snaps, 7 1.0s, and 5 1.5s. He was just demolishing Michigan State offensive linemen, and this is a guy that, like we said at the top of the podcast, why he's going number 2 overall. He's the best non-quarterback in this class and well worth a top pick in the draft.
Yeah, and it's almost the safety aspect of you get along the offensive line, you have the most one-on-one interactions compared to a position like wide receiver or a position like safety, cornerback. It's just you feel the most comfortable about it because you've seen a guy beat another human being repeatedly and with very good speed. Yeah, obviously. No, but that is something that translates that you feel better about projecting. It is an easier position to project when you see a guy doing it at that high a level, in my opinion. So I do think that's why he is the number 2 player on our board at the moment. And, yeah, what he's doing right now is something we've never seen.
Mm-hmm. This is one of my favorites to raise the glass to because it was a big stage for him. He was going against a top quarterback in Justin Herbert, Ashton Davis of Cal. He's a guy that we raved about in previous podcasts because he's this former high hurdler. He has all this athleticism and speed. He really showed out in this one, an 88.1 coverage grade, had an outstanding break on the ball. I really do like Ashton Davis. He showed up.
Yeah, he showed the full skill set. That's why we love him, why we have him as a first-round type of safety at this point, playing from the slot, off coverage, dig route, he breaks underneath it, picks it off on Justin Herbert. Playing from middle field safety, seam route, breaks on it before the ball is even thrown, hits plays the receiver and the ball, breaks it up out over the seam there on him. So that is the 2 things you basically want to see from a modern safety. Can you guard the slot? Check mark, yes. Obviously, obviously it's one play, but we've seen it again and again. That's been him through the course of his career. Can you guard the slot? Yes. Can you make plays from the middle of the field? Can you shut down the seams? Yes, again. Ashton Davis, he's catching up with Grant Delpit on our board. Now he's not. He's still not quite the playmaker. Still not as versatile. Do it all. I still have questions about him in run defense. I don't think I'm playing him in the box anytime soon. But in coverage, he's pretty damn good.
So we got to bring up now we're going to our next segment here where we pour some out for some of the bad prospect performances from
There were
the
a lot of
weekend.
Drops.
Yes, a ton of drops. And we got to start with your guy.
No.
Jared Pinkney of Vanderbilt. He earns a 42.5 overall grade, 2 drops against Ole Miss. And we went into this game. Jared Pinkney has not had a good start. Only 120 yards receiving in Vandy's first 4 games. Has not looked the part. Bad production. But hey, he doesn't have a drop on the year. We'll take that. He goes into this game, drops 2 balls, and you can just hear his draft stock just falling down. He needs to play better. He needs to play better.
Yeah, he had 1 catch on 6 targets for 7 yards.
2 almost catches. That makes a more positive spin on the drops, I feel like.
Dude,
1 forced missed tackle on 11 receptions. I need more from this guy.
He should have just come out last year. It's been bad. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's been bad. But I'll trust that the being able to get open part is the more important thing. I still think that he can.
And Vandy's quarterback's bad. The offense isn't great. Yeah. I think there are excuses we can make.
But no,
dropping the football is just
you
not
definitely worry. Yeah, you definitely worry about how unproductive he has been so far this season. If it doesn't turn around, yes, he will be falling down our board.
So we're going to pour one out for Jordan Love, but let's hold off. We're going to talk about a draft special where we really talk about Joe Burrow and Jordan Love together, talk about that matchup and how that went. So let's go ahead and skip that. Talk to a couple other guys that have dropped a ton of balls this weekend. Aaron Fuller, 5 drops for Washington, and Tyler Johnson, 3. Let's start with Aaron Fuller. This is a guy that's had those spectacular catches. I've cut a few cut-ups of that. He's got great spectacular catchability, but when you drop 5 balls in a game, that's unheard of. Like that, the next closest guy was Tyler Johnson with 3.
Yeah, and they were a problem for him last year. He had 7 on 66 catchable last year.
So he's just trying to catch up.
Anything over 10% drop rate is bad. That's going to put you in the lower, probably third or so of NFL wide receivers if you're over 10%. And to be consistently over 10%, if you're over that every year, in which he's over that obviously again this year with those 5 drops this past week. That's when you're in worry about his hands territory because you're just going to lose trust of your quarterback. You're not going to be seeing a lot of playing time if you're just having the ball clang off your hands in practice every day.
Let's skip over to Tyler Johnson. He's the guy that has proven with his route running ability he can create separation at the short, intermediate, and deep levels of the field. He's fantastic in that regard. But what was a problem for him last year continues to be kind of a problem this year. He had drop problems a year ago, and he had 3 drops this weekend. One we're pouring out for.
I was going to say, he's in the exact same boat as Fuller, and one who I honestly think came back, could have declared last year as a junior, came back purely because he wanted to say, basically prove that he doesn't have drop issues. But, like I said, 3 more drops this past week. Now has 4 drops on 33 catchable this season. First career 22 on 178 catchable. That's a high rate. Every single year of his career outside of, over the last 2 years has dropped over 10% of his catchable passes and is up over that once again again, he's in the territory of it's bad, and you might not be seeing the football field when it's that bad.
What's crazy is I did interview him before the season over the phone and talked to him about what you want to prove this year, what do you want to get done. He said, I got to catch a football. And he said that was the biggest thing. I need to catch football. I can't have these drops. I've been working all offseason with my guys to get better, be more sure-handed, and it sucks to see those still continue.
One of those three was kind of in a tight window, and he's reaching out, and it was not necessarily, not the next excuse, but it's more to say at the fact that two of those three were just, he was wide open. The ball was in his chest, and he just coughed it up. So those are the ones where it's just, if they consistently happen over 3 years of sample size now, if that's just your MO, sometimes that's just going to be who you are. And that he might be, Amari Cooper has serious drop issues as well and is still a number one receiver, but a lot of guys have had drop issues that have taken them out of the league if they're that bad.
It's definitely something hard to overcome when you're not an elite separator like Amari Cooper. If you get to a point where you're not one of the best route runners in the NFL, and you're dropping passes, it's gonna be tough to find the field and produce. Let's go to Arizona cornerback Jace Whitaker. He's a guy that we highlighted on the Thursday podcast as a big matchup against Colorado. He goes into this one, allows over 100 yards receiving, a 49-yarder, and a touchdown. He earned his lowest coverage grade of the year, a 46.2, and he entered the game with a high one. This is not a good look for a senior, 5'11", 185 pounds. You'd like to see better from Whitaker. He's a guy that was maybe rising a little bit, but this is definitely, he got hit in the nose on this one. Not great.
Well, and also missed tackles. I had a couple of missed tackles in this one, and that's something that we wanted to see him not have after he had double-digit missed tackles his last year as a starter back in 2017. Obviously missed a lot of 2018 with an injury. So wanted to see him cut down on the missed tackles, had two more. I liked him as a slot cornerback, or I still like him as a possible slot cornerback in the NFL, but this was a tough one. Took it on the chin. It's one of those back to the drawing board. You can't have too many of those and still expect to be drafted highly. Going
to Iowa, this is kind of his first game back from injury. He played 77 snaps.
A little bit of excuse, but yeah.
Alaric Jackson. He earned a 66.5 overall grade in this one. Not terrible, but what you wanted to see him come back and be dominant like we thought he could be.
And Michigan's one of my favorite defensive lines just schematically to watch offensive linemen play against because they will allow a lot of freedom from their defensive ends to attack. You're not just holding gaps and know where a guy's going. They stunt a lot, slant a lot, so many inside moves, that sort of thing. Guys have freedom, and so it's a tough test if you're an offensive lineman. And I just think Alaric Jackson, his foot speed is the biggest issue for him, and it got exposed in this one on a handful of inside moves, on a stunt as well, where he just couldn't get back out to pick it up. Injury, obviously a factor there, maybe a little bit of a caveat, but I do think that it was more than just the injury. I think he is just a limited athlete at the tackle position. You could see the difference between him and Tristan Wirfs in terms of how they handled that Michigan front was a big difference.
4 pressures allowed in that one. Definitely got beat on some inside moves. Let's move on from our pull one out segment. We're going to go draft special where we talk a big matchup from the weekend. Yes. We talked about this a little bit on other YouTube videos for PFF, and this one, Joe Burrow going against Jordan Love. We went into this one. We talked about it on Thursday. Joe Burrow needs to dominate. It's a bad Utah State defense. He cannot fall against bad competition. Love, this is your one chance, a huge game circled on every scout's calendar to prove that you can compete with NFL talent, top Power 5 talent, and we didn't see anything great from Jordan Love, but Joe Burrow continued to kind of roll on.
I would say Burrow, check the box, business as usual. Fifth straight game with an 80-plus overall grade. That's crazy consistency at this point. But, yeah, Jordan Love. We did a whole video on it breaking down just exactly how bad it was if you want to go check it out on the PFF YouTube channel. But he just – and it was the aspect of I think he started pressing too hard to make plays, got late to a few throws, and just bad decisions. And that's what you wanted him to cut down on because he's top 5 now in terms of turnover-worthy plays nationally. And that was a problem. That was a problem with him going into the game. You wanted him to at least, if it's going to be bad, at least protect the football. At least, don't take sacks, protect the football. Maybe you don't have guys open, but you don't have to, compound that with more mistakes on your part. And Jordan Love did. You can still see the special. He made a special throw outside the pocket, had a couple nice deep balls in this one, but the turnover-worthy plays, the decision-making that we've seen from Love this year is very worrisome. That's why he's not, in the first-round conversation for us where a lot of guys have him. It's just because he has made too many bad decisions with the football.
Goes from Jordan Love to see it to Jordan hate to see it, and that's where we got to kind of be with him. I want to go back to Joe Burrow, though. You talk about 80-plus passing grades. 80-plus passing grades so far this year in all those games. He's done it on NFL throws. He's one of the highest-graded quarterbacks in college football on those throws of 10-plus air yards. He's fitting it into tight windows, logging those big-time throws, and limiting mistakes. Joe Burrow, if you go back to the mock draft, It's why he's in Miami Dolphins right now, okay? He's suiting up, taking over this franchise with Jerry Jeudy in tow. He's going to light it up. I think Joe Burrow playing very well to start. A rocket, an absolute rocket of draft boards right now. Let's go to rookies. That's going to do it for our prospect stuff, or we'll talk a little Chug the prospect later, but or Chug the prospect. Rolling rooks, talking about some of our top rookie performances from the weekend. Got to start with Kylie Murray. Earned an elite 92-plus overall grade in this one. Lit up a bad Bengals defense, dropped them to 0-5. And what I really liked about this one is they got him running the football a little bit more.
Yes.
They did some design runs for him, and he looked really fast. Maybe the Bengals are bad and slow, but he looked very fast in that game. I think getting him involved like that, I think is going to gain confidence for him, and I think it's going to help him overall for sure.
Yeah, they involved him more in the actual quarterback designed run, sort of, he is it's not just a scramble. He is actually an option for the rushing attack. And I think that's how you're going to best utilize a talent like him. That's what we've said. The rushing threat of a quarterback does so much to opposing defenses that you have to use it. Now, with the Cardinals in their situation and Kyler Murray being in his first year and they're just not being a playoff sort of caliber team at this point, yes, you don't want to get him killed. You want to strike that balance of not getting him to take too many shots. But if you're using him as a drop-back passer with that offensive line, you might get him killed anyway with how bad they are. So I think there is a balance to be struck there, and I think this was a nice balance of using him in that running game. So this was kind of as advertised, what we had hoped to see when we had him as our number one quarterback coming out this year.
And he went into this game without an overall grade above 70.0 in any of the games he's played. A 90.4 overall grade for him here, 88.7 rushing, 83.6 passing. I think that's outstanding production for Kyler and a big confidence booster for him as they move forward through the schedule. No one's picking Arizona to go to the playoffs, really. No one's picking them to win the Super Bowl. But if you can start to see it, and I remember you talk about this too, from a rookie, when you can see him do it a couple games, or even one or two games, because you talk about that Sam Darnold stretch last year, down, he was one of the highest graded quarterbacks late in the year. I think being able to see it as a rookie, things click for him is important. I think you started to see it with Kyler Murray in this one. Let's go to Oakland. Josh Jacobs, PFF's highest ranked running back in the class, is the highest graded rookie running back in the NFL right now. He earned a 77.7 overall grade for his efforts against Chicago. Had a nice leaping dive over the top behind Alec Eagold, another rookie, to score there. I think he's a guy that is taking advantage of improved run blocking for the Oakland Raiders. I think they do look better. Richie Incognito is actually bullying some kids. I mean, playing really well.
But yes,
he's playing well, and Josh Jacobs too. 23 forced missed tackles so far. He's averaging 3.57 yards after contact per carry. He looks legit, and no wear and tear from Alabama. He was lightly used. Some people knocked that as a con. I'm saying, dude,
nice.
I'm glad it's not Derrick Henry rolling in there with like 500 carries. You have Josh Jacobs playing really well for Oakland right now. Still maybe not worth that first-round pick, just given where there's at. But again, you're getting the most out of him, and he's playing at a high level.
Yeah, 13 broken tackles on the ground over the past 2 weeks. We had him as the number one running back on the board. I love the fact that he didn't get a lot of wear and tear on him. He was fantastic where they used him a lot in short yardage. The thing I love, though, from this past week, 3 targets was his most of any game this year.
Let's go.
And he repays them with 20 yards receiving. I mean, there was he utilized him in the pass game. That was where he really separated himself in my mind from this pack.
And they need to bump that even more. We just watched Austin Eckler get 15 targets or 15 receptions in a game. I think don't get it to that level, but I think 6 target games makes sense for Josh Jacobs because, one, he's an elite receiving talent. We said that before the draft. 2, the Raiders don't have much else. They played this game without Tyrell Williams, without Dwayne Harris, no J.J. Nelson. I'm not sure why they didn't get him more involved. I think it would have made sense to get him even more than 3 targets, but it was the winning formula. They go overseas and take that dub against Chicago. Let's move forward here. Another rolling rook, Eric McCoy, New Orleans Saints. This is a guy that's played really well to start the season and capping off another big game in Week 5.
Yeah, 75.1 overall grade. I mean, anything even close to above average play, and that's above average play, along the offensive line as a rookie is fantastic. You just don't see that. It's so rare to see that, and it's funny looking through our grading, just looking at, when we'll actually get to this later when we get to blackout performances, one of the things I'm just going to touch on is rookie offensive alignment. It is tough to play right away in the NFL along the offensive line. When you have a guy doing it like McCoy there for the Saints, that usually means you're probably onto something special.
Yeah, specifically looking at pass protection here, only 4 hurries allowed across 207 pass blocking snaps. That is fantastic. Let's go to a guy that is a rolling rook. This is not a blackout performance for Garret Bradbury. He did not have a terrible game. He had a good game. Not great. 71.4 pass blocking grade for Garret Bradbury. And why that's significant? It doesn't sound crazy. It's a C in the normal grading system in class. He earned I'll go through the weeks. Week 1, 0 pass blocking grade against Atlanta. Week 2, 16.3 Green Bay, 51.9 against Oakland, 24.2 against Chicago. This is a bounce back week for Garret Bradbury, a 71.4 pass blocking grade. He needed this. I needed this. We needed this.
We highlighted it, right?
Yeah.
On the Thursday show, we said if he can't do it against Dexter Lawrence, if he gets his butt handed to him again against a rookie, it's going to be bad. So 0 pressures allowed for him. Huge step forward. The light was gonna flip on. The light should flip on at some point.
At least
he's not
flicker.
He's not.
At least flicker.
He's not going to be the worst center in the NFL. His entire career. Like there was still a reason he was drafted in the first round. But I do think that very encouraging for Vikings fans to see him actually start getting the job done. Like I said, if it didn't happen this past week, it could have gotten all time sort of ugly with this rookie year.
Only defender making the rolling rook segment here, but for good reason.
Yes.
Nick Bosa literally put the Cleveland Browns offensive line on fire. He waved the Ohio State flag and planted it against Cleveland. He had an outstanding game. And I want to bring him up more from just this game. He earned a 90-plus pass rushing grade in this game. He made our team of the week, PFF's team of the week. That goes beyond rookies. But this guy has been lights out to start. I don't care about the sack numbers. He added them in this past week. But even before that, he had a very high pass rush win rate. A little fun fact, him and his brother, Joey Bosa, went into that game with the same pass rush win rate. Both of those guys are identical. They're the same person. He is having a very good start and coming off his best game as a young player right now.
And he had a little ankle injury hampering him the first few weeks of the season.
He's still blown up
bye.
Dotson.
Now but his worst game this season, he still had 4 pressures. 26 through 4 games already. That is ridiculous production. That's, if you can't do the math in your head, that's on pace for over 100 this season. So,
jeez,
bad.
You bring up that stat, and I'm diving into the data
OTs
here to kind of check it out. His worst game, he has 4 pressures. Cleveland Farrell's best game, he has 3. So this is not a great start.
Not all top 5 picks are created equal.
Not all top 5 are created equal. But that's going to do it for our rolling rook segment. Nick Bosa, absolutely lights out. Garret Bradbury with a big bounce back week. Let's go to blackout performances. Get a little bit darker, a little bit more negative. I know it's been too positive. I've been hammering Garret Bradbury. Let's go blackout performances. Mike, you want to start this one off?
I wanted to kick it off with just rookie offensive linemen in general.
Not Garret Bradbury.
Not Garret Bradbury, though. But if you're starting a rookie offensive lineman, chances are it can get pretty ugly, and it will get pretty ugly. This past week we had 6 different guys earn grades below 50 along the offensive line. Max Sharping of the Houston Texans, Nate Davis of the Tennessee Titans, Cody Ford of the Buffalo Bills, Caleb McGarry of the Atlanta Falcons, Ryan Bates of the Bills, and Wes Martin of the Washington Redskins. All those guys just took it on the chin. And it's you don't blame them. You're just not ready to when you come into the NFL. So anytime you want to draft this offensive lineman, think that's going to immediately turn around your program, a lot of times it doesn't. There's only a few guys that actually move that needle.
Draft offensive lineman like the Eagles draft offensive lineman. Andre Dillard, first round, put him behind Jason Peters. He played great in the preseason, still put him behind Jason Peters. Let him learn the speed of the NFL. Let him get bigger, stronger, all of that stuff. And then when you see in year 2 and year 3 he plays well, I think that's the way to go. I think with rookie offensive linemen, you have to set the bar low if you're going to start them out of the gate. Not as low as maybe Garret Bradbury's 4-game start, but still pretty low from what we've seen. Another, not an offensive lineman, but a rookie kind of had a blackout performance. Keyshawn Johnson. He came in, they were without Christian Kirk, maybe a guy who could step up. 2 drops in this one. That's always going to kind of drive down your grade. And he's a guy that's been praised by the coaches. He's playing more than Andy Isabella. And Andy Isabella was drafted in the 2nd round. But with Keyshawn Johnson, 2 drops here, not something you like to see.
Yeah, that's I didn't love him coming out, so I'm not gonna say it's a great thing to see. But I'm just saying, forcing him into early action, I did not think would be great for him. Andy Isabella only saw 9 snaps in this one. I'm shedding a tear over my boy.
Did he even have a target? I think it was a handoff that he was given. It was, oh man,
ugly. But all right, I have another blackout performance, and it is Quincey Wilson, the linebacker for the Jacksonville Jaguars. If you want to go.
Quincy Williams,
Jesus. Yeah. Quincy Williams, linebacker, Jacksonville Jaguars. Go on Twitter, search his name.
I think I've
and
seen
Christian
it.
McCaffrey. There's a highlight reel of him trying to tackle Christian McCaffrey, and it is absurd. He has we only charged him with 4 missed tackles on the day because some of them he was so far away from Christian McCaffrey that we couldn't even call it a tackle attempt.
Jeez.
He was just flopping all over himself,
just a
trying
to.
But you're starting a guy who played at Murray State last year and expecting him to tackle Christian McCaffrey. Like, he's not ready. He has not been ready. He has a 29.8 overall grade this season. Just don't throw him out there. They're throwing him to the wolves right now.
Let's go to another blackout performance for a rookie here. Mack Wilson of Cleveland Browns. He's got an insane preseason grade. He played well in coverage. These past few weeks, 41.3 overall grade against Baltimore, a 36.3 overall grade against San Francisco. No one played well against San Francisco, to be fair. But this is a guy that has not played well across a large sample size. He's playing over 60 snaps a game for this defense and really got bullied in the run game. He's earned sub 50.0 coverage grade so far this year. And I know you're a guy that's not super surprised. I mean, you weren't a guy that's super high on Mack Wilson, and I think his coverage grades in the preseason may be fool's gold. Yeah,
he went the 5th, and that was kind of where I had him. But I will say this. You go up against the 49ers as a linebacker and Kyle Shanahan, that's the hardest matchup you can face as a linebacker. They throw so much shit at you from the running game perspective, from shifts, using a fullback, just stuff you'll never see against any other offense. And when you're a rookie in the NFL, that had to be looking like things were coming, like everything was coming at you a mile a minute. So can't necessarily blame Mack Wilson, about as tough a assignment as he'll see all season long. But yeah, things did not go well for him today.
And I was talking with Solly about this. Like, it's not like Georgia or old Georgia Tech levels where you're playing against wing T and you've never seen it before. But, it's similar that the San Francisco 49ers offense, how often they use a fullback, this 21 personnel look, not a ton of 11 personnel, kind of the most popular personnel grouping in the NFL right now. It's different. And I think the Browns defense isn't going to play another offense that puts out like the San Francisco 49ers does. I think it's still surprising that they lost as bad as they did. Some bad Baker Mayfield turnovers. But like you said, I think for linebackers that are edging on 240 pounds, it's going to be a struggle to kind of go against these big beef houses that are running right at you, use check, etc. I think beef
houses, underrated.
Beef house. Yeah. I like beef house. Like a stack of beef, like has a beef steaks.
There was a restaurant by me where I grew up called the Beef House. So
I thought that was what your mom went by. Let's chug a prospect here. We're going to go to, I guess we could say, former West Virginia safety, Kenny Robertson Jr. This guy's story is insane, and you're bringing him up at a good time. Let's just
We're chugging him because he's going to get drafted
in the first round of the XFL.
Of the XFL draft, yes. That's when he's officially declared for the XFL draft.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
This guy that you liked, though, a ton.
I did.
He was in our preseason draft guide.
21st in our preseason mock draft because he is legit. This dude's legit. We're going to chug Kenny Robinson. Yeah. So let's go deep on Kenny Robinson. Was only a 3-star recruit coming out of high school, but comes to West Virginia, 6'2", 195 pounds, starts at cornerback first game as a true freshman, starts a few games at cornerback before they're like, hey, this guy's a little too freewheely for us. They throw him into safety. Moves to safety after a few games, and in those final 6 games that he started at safety, his freshman year, he earned 88.6 coverage grade on 397 snaps. Dude is a playmaker on the back end, has some reads, had probably 2 of the best hits I saw all of 2018 season from any safety. He just comes over, lays the boom, completely unafraid to put guys flat on their backs. Love to see a guy like that. And they weren't cheap shots either. He was putting them right in their stomach, but had some huge hits. But he is a freelancer on the back end. That's his biggest sort of mishap. He had a lot of times where he would abandon his zone. Guy would come back in across him, miss there. But he just made some plays that you just don't see. Again, go back to the number of safeties that can make that play in college football. Him, Grant Delpit might have been it. Just glides across, I wrote here, the back end of defenses. Smooth hips and long strides, cover a lot of ground. Experience playing corner, low strike zone on his hits over the middle, not going to draw any flags. His angles at deep safety are fantastic, knows where the ball is going to be, gets to the ball, willing to play through blockers in the run game. I think there was a lot to like about his tape. A lot of bad, though, as well. A lot of bad also the fact that he probably left. The reason he left for West Virginia, not that it was ever actually publicized, was because he was academically ineligible and wasn't going to be able to qualify anywhere else he went. So is the most likely the explanation that I've heard for why he had to leave. But yeah, so that sort of freewheeling nature on the back end
not surprised
with
about
that
the academic
is not necessarily a great combination. But I think it'll be fun to see how he fares in the XFL because you can't teach the high-end sort of traits that a guy like Kenny Robinson has. So if he can make some plays in the XFL, talking about the NFL someday.
Early depoy favorite for the XFL, I'd say. And I'm picking the team here. I'm hoping maybe Memphis Maniacs. See, he seems like a maniac.
Well, hopefully he's like close to us. We go see him in person. That'd be great.
Oh, that'd be great. You got Chicago Enforcers, maybe the San Francisco Demons. I feel like he'll find a role in the XFL. That's going to be exciting to see. Well, that's going to be Kenny Robertson Jr. and that's going to be the 2-for-1 Drafts podcast. Remember, you can see us live on YouTube Tuesdays and Thursdays, and we're also available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Stitcher. This has been Austin Gayle and Mike Renner on 2-for-1 Drafts.